Welcome to the Esports Trade Association Live here from LinkedIn Live. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Megan Van Petten, the founder of the Esports Trade Association. And I'd love to know who's watching. If you'd like to put your name in the comments and where you're from and what company. Today, we're looking forward to having you hear from Lightware. Lightware and Brandon Brunheimer is here from AVI SPL, co-hosting this lunchtime show. Hey, Brandon.
Hey, how are y'all doing? If you want to pop some questions as we start the conversation and get things going, feel free, make it interactive. I'd like to introduce, I'll start with Mike Ellsworth, and we'll go from there to Jason.
Wait, me first or Mike first?
It doesn't matter.
All right, Mike, you go first.
Hi, everybody. Glad to be here. Mike Ellsworth, Senior Sales Engineer with Lightware, here with my fearless leader, President Jason Tirado. I'll let him intro.
Thank you, Mike. It's good to be here. Jason Tirado with Lightware. Megan, thanks for the invitation. Brandon, good to see you again. Some exciting times, things are changing. Megan, I got that fantastic announcement that you sent me about your Morgan Stanley symposium. I mean, I'm just blown away. I know that when we joined the Esports Trade Association, we had certain goals in mind, and getting on the boards and getting involved and meeting the people has been fantastic. But then seeing what the association itself is up to, and how even in just a few short months that we've been around, things are starting to take off. Tell me, how did that happen? Like what happened?
That's a great question, and we're so happy for your support from Lightware. And this is so perfect today that it's lunch and that you're also having us for lunch. And when you come to Chicago, Morgan Stanley has just been an incredible partner and supporter. Scott Quinto from Morgan Stanley serves on our board, along with Mike Ellsworth, and they're really committed to the educational component of financial literacy, and we couldn't be more excited about the very first symposium for esports, and they're hosting it next week with us to kick off our conference on August 22nd and 23rd. So it was great news today. It's a really good day for you all to have the LinkedIn Live with us.
Yeah, very exciting stuff. I think, and we were also talking earlier about the Chicago event coming up. Brandon, this is going to be a big deal out in Chicago in August. I'm talking about the Esports Trade Association. So, do you have anything special planned that you're going to tip to us today?
No, I mean, just besides the fact that we've got a lot coming down the pipe when it comes to that conference. We've got a lot of educational applications, a lot of great speakers, a lot of really good panels. It's definitely going to be an awesome opportunity to really engage with the community of esports. And I think that that's the huge value is, we've been so long without, everybody starting to finally get into the motion of seeing individuals in person and kind of moving in that direction, which is fantastic. Last year we had an in-person event. This year we're going to have another one. But just as we kind of grow in that perspective and what we're looking at from a panels, it's really going to cover a broad spectrum of topics that are super current events within the industry and how we're reacting, how we're pivoting, what we're doing to create momentum within the industry. And I think that there's going to be some great opportunity for some conversations there. As we know, from an industry perspective, we have Infocom coming up, and you guys have just recently done some really cool install applications and developments. Luminarium, not only in Vegas, but you also did the one in Atlanta, which are fantastic applications. Kind of talk to us a little bit about the dynamic and the design and the intent of what that looks like. If people on the chat haven't heard of Luminarium, check it out. And as we start to kind of get into it, but let me know a little bit more about it and what it is.
I'll respond. Thank you, Brandon. So there's a gentleman named Brian Allen who is formerly of Radical Media and came up with this concept, and the great word, by the way, Illuminarium, because it's just so evocative when you hear it. You think like terrarium, an aquarium. I'm seeing something that's got illumination in it, and so you almost get this idea of what it is just by hearing this imaginative word. But he went out and found sponsors, investors for a true immersive environment that is beyond what anybody has ever seen or experienced before. And they started out with some models that they built up, and then after they had the models working with several projectors on a truss, they went ahead and expanded it out to an environment that is basically between Atlanta and Las Vegas. I think they've got like 75 to 100 projectors, hung from the ceiling. They've got an enormous, massive space. It's I can't give you the square footage off the top of my head, but the walls themselves are 23 to 25, 32 feet high. And so when you're in it, you're not only seeing image mapping like all over the floor and all over the walls, but they've gone out and created content specifically for this environment, right? Because it's no longer just like a two-dimensional aspect thing that you're looking at.
It's like a billion pixels.
You're living in it. You're involved in it. You're looking around. It's all around you. And so they took these cameras, specialty cameras, to Africa. They did safari footage, and they render it like all around you. And not only do they do the video, but it's spatial audio recognition too. So if you see a bird flying behind you, you actually can hear the bird over your shoulder before you even look around and see it. And then they're wafting in odors. They're doing what they call haptics, which are ways that the environment physically interacts with you. So if you see some elephants walking by, you actually start to feel it in the floor underneath your feet while they're walking by. So they've done basically everything they can to kind of transport you through space and time. And yeah, we were proud to be a part of it. I'd say if you're in Las Vegas, Area 15, or if you're in Atlanta, you should go check it out. Really exciting stuff.
Yeah, I mean, Area 15 just in itself is a really cool concept. They have some gaming studios there. They have distilleries. They have all sorts of things throughout the entire complex. It's really a cool experience. Something that last month we kind of had a conversation from the education committee about just how VR and augmented reality is growing in esports, and kind of that mixed reality hybrid solution. We kind of look to the Luminarium as an example of those developments and how those things are becoming more relevant. You guys have quite a few products that are dedicated to that high bandwidth transport, video transport, those kinds of capabilities. Just as you guys kind of see a little bit more of the dynamic changing with requirements for esports, where do you guys see the future? What do you see kind of trending, and where do you see it going?
I'm going to ask Mike to take a swing at that. Especially Mike, you've been dealing with a very large software company in Cupertino. Wait, a fruit company. The fruit company in Cupertino. That's right. So with that fruit, what are you guys doing? Because I think you're using some of our Ubex platform that Brandon's referencing in that design.
We certainly are. We're as they upgrade and develop their next generation of broadcast studios. Some from seats up to 500 to 1,000, all the way up to 5,000 plus. They have amazing LED walls, 8K LED walls behind the stage that they're able to do all these amazing things with. So when they do product releases, those 30-foot tall devices on those 8K video walls look as incredible in person as they do when you're watching the live stream. So a lot of that has to come down to being able to manage the highest bandwidth signal possible, and doing it in an architecture that is probably the next iteration of signal management from a video standpoint, doing it over a fiber network, like a 10 gig fiber network, as opposed to having a big video matrix where all of your inputs and outputs are centralized and in one place. This allows you to spread things out, get asymmetrical if you want. It gives a ton of flexibility, and then using the biggest pipe, the highest amount of bandwidth possible with 10 gig fiber routers, which we can stack on top of each other to give even beyond bandwidth beyond there. So we haven't seen the limit, or we haven't reached at least yet the limit of what's possible. But there's so many things there that can be done in these new environments. And to Brandon's point, being VR and augmented reality and all those things, we also see the XR platform, the external reality, right? So think about it like a 4-sided video wall, right? Floor, walls, ceiling, gaming and esports in general, as we've seen it in some areas, in the Far East, it's like actual tournaments that are done on these. It isn't just an LED wall with 2-dimensional or 3-dimensional players sitting in front of it. These are players that surround a 3D virtual environment that's LED all the way through.
Yeah, they've been doing a lot of like game releases recently where they're walking through an XR on the maps and things like that. It's really an intuitive way to be able to display what games are coming out and what the maps look like and how to introduce them. I think that as we start to see a lot of the majors going on in person, and we had Dallas, and then we had up in the Midwest, all of those different tournaments, everything in esports is so video transport heavy. And you guys play such a dominating role in the ability to be able to transport that data. I mean, everybody that's going to be involved with this conversation understands bandwidth. They understand and they evaluate, what the capabilities are from distribution. How are you guys seeing that trend in education? So in schools and those kinds of things, are you guys, playing roles where you're developing those kinds of systems and those infrastructures for future proofing those schools?
There's so much work being done right now, Brandon, in that area, and I'll kind of take your question and kind of zoom it out a little bit, not
Sure.
just education, but I'll bring it out to a familiar word, collaboration. Because to me, actually, when you asked earlier about the future of these spaces and where they're going and how they're going, that's what really I wanted to bring up. Was what we're seeing right now is that the traditional, like this, right? This is a collaborative call, right? We're all on a call and we're sitting at our desks and we got our little computers and our microphones. We're having a collaboration call. The future of the immersive technologies that we're describing is going to start to meld with these kinds of calls, right? Because now what's going to happen is there's going to be a leveling of not only remote participants, but live participants together, and the immersive environment all being the backdrop for all of us, right? So now it's not like you're just standing on a stage somewhere and I'm sitting in front of my computer, we're having this little chat. We're all going to be transported into one of these new immersive environments together. We'll be able to manipulate each other, coming in and out, and have live people also be part of the action. And so to me, when you think about the future of it, it's sort of like bringing together immersive environments, gaming, and collaboration all together. And to me, that's really kind of where I see it heading.
Yeah, I think from our broad spectrum of what we're seeing, especially in universities, a lot of them are trying to dynamically approach their labs, their centers, their gameplay areas from a multi-use perspective. So you've got not only just the esports aspect of the game, but also game development, also the ability to have podcasts, also the availability to have broadcast and streaming. So I think that, the understanding the backbone of what that looks like, the transportation of what that looks like, and the bandwidth capabilities that are required, I think are a huge application that sometimes is missed at the very forefront because it's not always the forefront of thought. The idea is getting these crazy computers in to play the console games, to play the PC games, to be able to functionally play the game. But I think that a lot of times what's missing on the university or the secondary education perspective is the backbone capability to be able to display those appropriately. Nobody wants to see lag time.
So Mike, I think it's funny Brandon said that, because I think the infrastructure and backbone capability was sort of a big subject when you were dealing with some of these latest jobs, wasn't it?
Yeah, and to Brandon's point, right, where you're at an event and you see, live gameplay on a video wall, it's, hey, cool. There's that guy, or person playing this, in real time on this big cool video wall. That's really neat. But in order for that to actually happen, in order for you to be able to have the capability of doing that, Brandon's exactly right. Like, to take a step back and look at it from a more granular level of, how do I actually get that signal off of that? We take an output off that computer, right? Let's start with that. And how do I get that on a 40 by 40 video wall? Well, you have to be able to manage HDMI, a lot or DisplayPort, but a lot of times HDMI, and imagine it in a way to where you are feeding the video processor, which is another key component of these systems, the signal that it needs, like Brandon said, without any lag time. So no compression, no frame latency, no delay, right? What goes out of that output, to plug in directly to the video processor is exactly the way that the box is expected to see it from the actual source, right? And then that's just getting from A to B, right? From the output of the gaming console or the graphics output to the input of a video wall processor. Now what happens when you have 10, 12, 15, 20 different live gameplay, head-to-head gameplay going on at the same time? How do you want to be able to show different things on that 40 by 40 video wall, not just this player's screen? You want to be able to switch to this player and switch to that and show different content and kind of keep your dynamic video wall, which is the thing you're using to keep everybody really locked in and paying attention to the right things. How are you able to do that? Now you're talking about introducing an infrastructure that allows, because you have to have all those signals available to you at any given time to be able to switch them and to display them. So now you need something that's going to be able to manage all that traffic, like a fiber network switch or anything along those lines, manage all that traffic, but also give you the pipe that you need to be able to push that 20 gigs of video per workstation or per gameplay station, right? And there's
Mike, you said something. You said, Mike, I'm sorry to interrupt you. You said something earlier when we were talking before the show. You said every pixel counts, and I think it's kind of what you were talking about, Brandon, in a different way, right? If you choose lower bandwidth infrastructure, that means you've got to compress or lose, the image quality. You're throwing the work away. You're tossing the pixels out because you can't send them all if you're doing it on a low bandwidth system. And what Mike's talking about is you need the backbone, the higher bandwidth infrastructure, because every single pixel counts. And if every pixel counts, you need to get it from here to there. You don't want to lose it along the way because your infrastructure doesn't support it.
Yeah, and there's a lot of value there, and not only from a higher education, but as we start to look at the pro level applications as well, and your arenas, you're talking about arenas that not only are going to be used for esports, but multiverse events. So concerts, you're talking about so much more from the spectrum. And that's what's so cool about the esports community is it just encompasses everything. So you have the broadcast, you have the music, you have the mixed reality, the augmented reality, virtual realities, the content creators. We're looking at teams as umbrellas now, as opposed to just foundational esports teams. And I think that the understanding of what direction and what level of standard is going to be required as we move forward, there are tons of venues that are starting to level that playing field. As we look in Texas and they're starting to really drive a lot of their teams, they have some state-of-the-art capabilities there. As we look in Chicago with Surge and what they're developing there, just all of these different kinds of capabilities. And even though Fusion was put on hold, eventually that will come back to life in Philly. You just have this growth that's starting to generate, and that is never going to die down with the level of quality expectation that's going to be required.
Oh, well, once you see something really good, you can't go back. It's really hard to go back.
Dial up.
Yeah, we were exactly. Yeah, we were in Las Vegas. We had just finished visiting a Luminarium, and then we went to another place that we've got some Ubex Lightware installed called War Studios. And the when you walk in, it's this hemispherical LED wall that's probably like 12 to 15 feet high. When you stand up close to it, it encompasses your entire peripheral vision. You really don't see anything outside of it. And then they got that hemisphere. Then they've got a seating area in the middle that they can bring in different people for live participation. And they've got a back hemispheric wall they can pull together so they can make the whole thing into just a continuous, immersive screen that goes all around you. And when you see that they can bring in these virtual participants, and they've had over 250,000 virtual participants in one event, 250,000. And so you're sitting there in this, it's like being in a movie. You're standing in the center of it, and you see what seems like millions of people all in their little frames. And when you want to talk to one, you just bring it up. You say, okay, Megan Van Patten from ESTA, I want to talk to her. And whoop, she becomes big, like on the screen right in front of you. And then she's life size and you guys are talking to each other. So once you've seen something like that, that's what you want. That's what you want. You want to do that. And you want to do that for entertainment. You want to do that for gaming. You want to do that for education. You want to do that for broadcast, because it's the sum total of all those different applications, right? That you would ordinarily have to build a different facility for, but you're bringing all those applications together and using the same stuff to accomplish different things.
Yeah, and I think that we constantly go back to the idea of whether it's The Mandalorian or digital production in those facets, but we go back to those and we constantly go back to them because they are the standard, that set level of what the expectation is. And unfortunately, that budget is a $30 million budget. But fortunately, it's a $30 million budget. So when we evaluate that production value and what the ask is there, I mean, it's huge, and nobody wants to take steps back. So we do a lot of immersive rooms for education, and there's a lot of studies going on at local community colleges and universities with stars and just concepts in engineering with SolidWorks, and the idea of taking these immersive mixed reality rooms and utilizing them for every different application on campus is huge. And that's the biggest thing. It's like that $30 million budget is substantial, but that $30 million budget across 18 playing fields, because everybody wants a piece of it, is substantially smaller. Now, granted, universities aren't going to have that, but even if they had this, breaking it across all the platforms doesn't seem like such a bad option anymore, especially once they start to see how much it's being used.
Correct. Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, it's like any new technology that comes along. Remember when printers were new? I mean, you're probably too young for that, but when printers were new, there would be like one printer on the floor. Everybody would go, you'd wait in turn to use the printer, and the entire company would use the printer. Or when video conferencing, I remember when there would be like one video conferencing room per company, and everybody, who wanted to had to use that one room. Well, it's the same thing now. We're building these new environments, but there's no reason that 18 different disciplines can't use them for their own needs. Like you think back to that again. I'm dating myself. Mike, did you ever see that movie Fantastic? It was about when they shrink the people down to the size of like a cell and they inject them in somebody's body, and they got to go. They're in a little ship flying through somebody's bloodstream. It's an old movie, but
I'm more of a Honey I Shrunk the Kids.
Honey I Shrunk the Kids.
Yeah, Honey I Shrunk the Kids.
There you go.
Exactly. So but you figure you could have your biology class inside a person's body, because now you get the camera floating through somebody's organs, and that whole thing is now all around you. You can get a real sense of what's going on. So I think it's only limited by what we want to do with it.
Yeah, and I think that as we look at mixed realities and as we look at those kinds of solutions, if we bring it back to from a how we're using it in esports realm, because a lot of times for tournament gameplay, anything that's not on your actual console is going to be too slow, irrelevant of how low the latency we can get it at this point. But where we are seeing a lot of things is from the immersive rooms, being able to utilize them as like respawn memorization. We're looking at training. We're looking at video playback of what happened in gameplay, and being able to see that. Nice. I'm seeing some Inner Space is the movie potentially. And then I'm seeing Magic School Bus.
Fantastic Journey or Fantastic. I can't remember anyway.
So as we kind of look at those different applications, I think that there's a huge drive and a want to start to see that low latency, high quality video for training purposes, for understanding gameplay, for understanding the maps better, being able to just be in a free mode and go through the map and kind of understand. But there's no better way to really involve and immerse yourself into the game than immersing yourself in the game. And I think that there's a huge drive with that, but still understanding what the requirements are to be able to accomplish that is another feat.
Yeah, and you
So I
touch on all
think,
these different applications, right? Like, so like education, or, you know, all of these different things that you're mentioning, the commonality there, the common thread is, in order to be able to do that in the most efficient and, you know, immersive way possible, what do you need to be able to do? Well, you
Right.
need to be able to manage the highest quality, you know, highest bandwidth video signal possible, right, at the time. That's the key. You know, in order to be able to do all these things, in order to have these environments and build these environments, you have to be able to manage any type of video signal coming from all the different areas where that, you know, that you're mentioning, for sure.
which is
Yeah.
in esports terms is the gift.
Right.
You know, high bandwidth. It's the gift.
Sure.
You know, one of the things you reminded me, Mike, was when we were doing some of these applications with some of the customers recently, because technology never really stops, and the time between somebody's desire to build something and put it down on paper and the time they actually get to do it, there are things changing all the way through, you know, right up until you actually deliver the equipment and start turning things on. That's been one of the challenges too, Brandon. I don't know if you see this, you know, but you've already had a vision and a decision and a diagram and a sketch, and then like 3 days later there's this, oh wait, but there's this new thing that we didn't have before, technology. Can't we get that in there somehow? I mean, I'm sure you must deal with that constantly too.
Yeah, we have a saying.
I have customers.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
I have customers today that talk to me about 8K video distribution,
Right.
and they're serious about it. Like,
Right.
they've come to me and like, hey, this is cool. We have everything we need for now, but when I want to start doing 8K over a single channel, how are we doing that?
Right.
You know?
Right.
Yeah, we have a statement that if you print blueprints, you're already out of date. I mean, that's the reality of it. You know, it's so crazy to think of how quickly it moves, and the esports industry is just developing in the same fashion. You know, I always say the esports industry is on the understanding of what the standards are, and the reason I say that is because it's dynamically changed over the last 20 years, with a such significant spike that is almost unmeasurable because of how quickly it's happened. You know, if you look at the broad spectrum of technology, and then you look at the little blip where it says esports and it goes like this. I mean, that is the industry in the current moment, and it's not stopping. It's not slowing down. So I think that there's a lot of room for advancements and growth. And as these programs start to develop even more, they also understand that it's not just the what is aesthetically pleasing anymore. It's the how does it work? Does it work well? And does it work without a flaw?
Right. Exactly. Well, you know, it's everybody would like all those things at once, and they don't want to spend $30 million for them. You know, so
yeah,
that's the challenge that we've got in front of us.
Cheap, fast, quick. Pick two.
Exactly. You get two. Pick two. Well, Megan, I don't know how much more time we've got, but I was just going to kind of turn it back to you just for a second to just, you know, see how you're doing over there. You've been kind of quiet for a moment.
Yeah, well, I think one thing that's really interesting about Lightware and Luminarium is everybody really has experienced it.
Yeah.
And they just don't know it. And that's something I would love to touch upon is, you know, you guys are talking very futuristic, but actually right now, everyone has seen Blue Man Group. Well, everyone knows what Blue Man Group is. Yeah. Everybody's been to concerts that has this incredible technology. Do you guys want to speak a little bit about that?
Thank you. Well, that's a great reminder. Yeah, to kind of bring it back to the present. For those of you that might think that you have not seen Lightware before, you probably have. Kind of Megan's point, you know, we're a standard at Blue Man Group. If you've ever seen a Cirque du Soleil show, probably anywhere in the world, then you've been watching Lightware without even really realizing it. We're the standard at those kind of venues. We're also at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. Mike, we've got a few other stadiums and shows. Anything you can think of off the top of your head?
Stadiums all over the place, all four major sports throughout the United States. You know, anytime you see a big video wall that's showing live content and you know graphically generated content, there's a good chance that there's Lightware involved in that as well. Like Megan touched on with concerts and big productions, it's I would say maybe 5-6 years ago when we really started seeing an upgrade path, or production companies and those types of things upgrading to be able to have not just a backdrop anymore, but they cover the entire back of the stage with LED walls, and they can actually go to the artists and say, listen, what do you want your audience to see back there? Because we can make anything. We can make it look however you want it to make it look. And the artist has had a lot of influence on what the audience sees because of the capabilities of what's there, right? You put an LED wall up there and you have a good graphic designer, you're only limited by your imagination and what you can do.
Exactly. I think, for performance spaces like that, concerts, Billie Eilish, is using some Lightware, Rolling Stones use Lightware. So a lot of those traveling acts that you see now with the big, and that's become part of the show. You don't just go to the show anymore just to listen to somebody play music. You go to the show because there's a show going on. There's lights and lasers and LEDs and smoke and all that stuff. Yeah. So we've been a big part of those big tours for a long time. And it's thanks for bringing that up, Megan. I appreciate it. Sometimes I forget about it because I'm so busy thinking about the future.
Yeah, you used to have to, go to Vegas to find those shows. I remember back in the day when I was doing production, one of our production guys was on the road with the Eagles, and he said he remembers using the overhead projectors with oils and different oils to be able to show backdrops. I was like, man, it's definitely come a long way since overhead projectors with oils.
We used to do that in my dorm room, man. That's old stuff.
Yeah. So I mean, I do remember overhead projectors. Don't get me wrong, but but no, I just think that it's an awesome opportunity for us to be engaged and understand and be educated with the stuff in the background. I think that so much is consumed on how everything looks and the applications of everything, but there's so much more that happens behind the scenes to deliver that experience. That I think if we had just a little bit more education from time and time again, then we would have a better respect for what happens in the background.
I appreciate that. I think so. I think
everybody loves chocolate chip cookies, but no, do you ever really sit down and go through the whole process of well, how does this thing actually work? How do we
what happens if there's no chocolate chips?
Yeah, exactly.
No chocolate chip cookie.
That's like having no fiber.
So somebody's asked a question here. So much of esports these days is a shoestring budget for their first or second events. How do those tournaments like that grow into a Lightware partner? That's a great question. And it kind of implies that we're sort of at the top end, which yes, that's a big part of what we do. But I wouldn't turn away anybody's budget to find out what they're doing and try to see. We got a whole range of products that are extender and friendly. We've got a whole range of products that are more built for conference rooms, boardrooms, smaller venues. So it's not necessarily always just Lightware in the big stadium and concert. We talk about it because it's fun and it's true. But I think if you're looking at any kind of environment that's going to have multiple graphic sources and multiple displays involved, whether it's 4-4 or 40-40, there's a good chance Lightware could be involved. So I'd say, reach out to Megan or reach out to us through LinkedIn or one of your sales contacts. Give us a chance to talk to you about it.
We do events and have been doing events at every level for so long, right? We have local folks. Our U.S. office is here in Michigan. We have some local production companies that do the regional type of events that we've been selling, like Jason said, extender boxes to, or small little matrices to, for any size show. Any size production, we can have a discussion about what might be best suited for you and making sure we can make that work within the parameters that you guys have for sure.
Yeah, and I think that the common conversation is well, I don't have a very big budget. Okay, well, let's talk about what your intent is, and then we can talk about budget. Because let's figure out what we can do first from a full design perspective, and then kind of idea what it looks like from a design. Because you may come to the table and say, I want the Ohio State setup. That's what I want. And everybody says, well, oh, sorry, Mike, there, the Michigan setup. And, take it from that perspective. But I want that. How do I accomplish that? And how do I make it as efficient as possible and what I want? But this is kind of where I'm playing. Okay, so now we talk about how we can design it. This is what you need from an endpoint. And then we can sit where it plays. So you can, it's just like you guys are talking about the full gambit, the full spectrum of product line that you guys have, and the full capability of being able to scale it down or scaling it up. But it still gives the data transport requirements that you're looking for your solution. And I think
That's
that
right.
that's the biggest goal.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And then it kind of goes back to something Mike was talking about earlier, which is, the Ethernet backbone of a lot of what we do, right? And so Ethernet networks are not so uncommon these days. Almost everybody's got an Ethernet switch, whether you're going to use a 1 gigabit switch or a 10 gigabit switch or a fiber switch. That's, again, back to Brandon's point. What are you doing? But the physical backbone network architecture, that's not rocket science these days. It's Ethernet switches, and so we've got a bunch of edge devices that attach to those. So yeah,
we got another question. As an AV company, we get these types of questions. What about a home office for someone who does virtual sales trainings and wants a permanent way to make production special?
That's really interesting you bring that up. I don't mean to turn this into a product placement opportunity, but we have a great solution for home offices that people are really starting to see utilized, right? It's called Taurus UCX. So the cool thing about this is that it's a USB-C switcher. So many of our devices now are centered on USB. Some devices don't have HDMI outputs even. So we've seen customers that are saying, hey, I've had to roll out a whole kind of platform for remote working situations, everything. I throw a Taurus, a UCX in that kit. Someone can use USB-C or HDMI, use it to a large monitor. It's a small little 4x2 switch, and it gives you the full capability of being able to manage all types of pathways, whether it be USB, HDMI. We know that those are the ones that everyone utilizes, but that's been a huge area of growth for us within the past couple of years, and hadn't always been an area where we've been not like, it wasn't like stadiums or big shows or anything like that. Like conference rooms and VC spaces and collaboration environments became new to us because we developed a USB-C switcher, which I still haven't seen another one hit the market yet. So that's where I would.
I think that's an interesting point, because like that question of home offices and permanent installs, you're essentially creating a mini broadcast studio.
correct.
And from that shouldn't be treated any differently. It once again goes back to, what are your endpoints? What's your end goal? How do you want to accomplish it? All right, let's find the products that fit at that point and to be able to accomplish the goal. Obviously everybody always comments, Brandon, you got mics, you got things, I can play music and all of this other stuff. And it's great. I do work for an AV company. I totally understand that. But in the same broad scheme of things, there's no reason why anybody in this day and age should have a crappy video conferencing solution in their house. That's the reality of it, because it's so readily accessible. But if you're doing it for profession, you should do it as a professional. And I'm a firm believer of that. And that's not to dog anybody who this is all I can afford. If that's what you got, then that's fantastic. But take pride in that application.
You obviously take pride in your application, Brandon. I'm telling you, you made my microphone feel so small when I came on. I see this like arms, articulated arms sticking out of somewhere with that beautiful microphone, and you look like you're flying in a 747. You look like you're about to land the plane. So yeah,
you gotta play it, man.
You are living it. You're not just walking. You're not just talking the talk.
You should see what's behind this. All right. It's ridiculous.
Well, Jason, remember a few months ago when you told me, like, hey, your home office setup, all these things, what are you doing? Level up, go get yourself a Taurus. Make your environment the environment that you want your customers to see, right? And so all of my video signal now is managed through my little USB-C switch here. My kid wants to tie in his Xbox to it so we can see it on multiple screens. Like, that's doable. His mom doesn't want me to do it, but we've done it. It's already done because I had the capability to do it.
Hey, look, there's a great future in esports. Trust me. I've seen some of those players and I've met a lot of them. There's a great future there.
Absolutely.
Well, to take it back to esports, Megan, I'll thank you again for inviting us today, and thanks for the Esports Trade Association and for being such a great founder and great promoter. The values that you hold are ones that we also hold, and just this whole idea that we're out there to enrich people's lives and do it in this way it's really satisfying, and I really appreciate you leading the way you're leading and allowing us to be a part of it. So keep up the good work.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Mike. And it's been really great to bring Lightware down to the basics to let everyone know that we all have experienced it. Such a great company based out of Budapest. What a great vision your founder had as well. And Brandon, thank you for hosting us as always. What's next for everyone?
Infocom.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
Infocom. See it in Vegas.
All right.
That time of year.
Yep. Thanks, guys. Appreciate
All
it.
right.
Thanks, everyone.
Take it easy. Cheers.
Take care.